We are a accumulation of people who moved here from all parts of the country and who found this club and found out about what it was about and joined it for many reasons, but the most important reason is to do good in our community and do good in the world. We pray that you would watch over us as we continue to do this. If we lack or fail, we pray for your strength. If we do good, we also pray for your continued strength. Bless us, bless this food. We ask in your son's name, amen.
I want to stand over here. You're going to be in the. That's fine. Jim's going to do his story in a second, but we're going to do a few other preliminaries. First off, are there any guests, Bill?
Yes, there are guests today. Angela, don't you have a guest? Do you have a guest? Cecilia. Oh yeah, I forgot she was there. Only if you wish to be heard.
Tell me to be brief. Cecilia is visiting us. She lives in Hanahan. Her parents were Rotarians. And would you like to say a little bit about yourself?
Good morning, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. So this is my first club I'm trying out in the Charleston region. 2024 goal to join a Rotary Club this year. So my dad was in Rotary and I was very active with him growing up. He always brought my siblings and I to Rotary meetings. And I studied abroad to Denmark through Rotary Youth Exchange when I was in high school. So feel very passionately about Rotary and being involved. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Also, Kevin, you have a guest.
Good morning. Kind of similar story. I've been in Charleston for about 3 years. Again, 2024 goal, looking for Rotary Club. Both my parents are Rotarians for 30 years and been past presidents. So it's kind of, I've grown up with Rotary, which has been great. So I appreciate all the time and thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you. And I think that's all. Are we good? For those of you who are cold, today is National Hot Buttered Rum Day.
So did you bring any? Is it Anna? Angela? Angela. Is that Anna? Just introduce Anna as well. Anna Spahn is also with Chris Watson, and she'll be introducing herself a little bit later, right? All you got to do is stand up and say, hi, I'm Anna. Look, as long as I'm talking about that, let me just very quickly get off topic a bit. I was going to say, but I'll say it now. Anna was with us when we gave money to the Help Ukraine matter 2 years ago. You remember when Mr. Putin decided to invade Russia? All of us, I think, felt like we wanted to do something. We wanted to do something personal to help the people and so forth. We were searching around for some place to do that, someone to do with it we felt comfortable. And we'll get to it later. I'm just a quick intro. But Anna and Chris set up something called, CHS for Ukraine. So Charleston for Ukraine. We donated, and what impressed me at the time was people here in this club really wanted to help personally. And so within 2 weeks, over 20% of this population individually contributed to this campaign to help Ukraine. And within a week after that, the board matched that money with duck money. And that had to be one of the proudest days I had as a Rotarian of this group, that immediate response to help people personally. So I just wanted to do that as a prelude to why Anna and Chris are special. All right, with that, we're going to send around the cart buckets, and you all know the routine. But in the meantime, Jim, you want to start your story?
My story, okay. I was born in the heat of the desert. My mother died giving me life. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, that's another story. I'm confused about that. I see how many Elvis fans we have here, huh? Come on now. You've heard that song. I was born in Kilgore, Texas, a small town in northeast Texas, about 2 hours to the east of Dallas. If you haven't heard of Kilgore, you may have heard of Van Cliburn, who was one of the world's greatest concert pianists, won the Tchaikovsky Concerto, playing the Tchaikovsky's Concerto #1 in B flat minor in Moscow years ago, and received world acclaim and fame after that. Used to go to church with him, and grew up in a wonderful town of 11,000 people, all discovered there in 1930s. And it went from 1,000 people to 11,000 in 24 hours, with National Guard being called in to keep the peace. When I was 15, we moved to the Natchez, Mississippi area. My father worked for Atlantic Oil Company, and we actually moved to a small town 10 miles away from Natchez called Faraday, Louisiana. You probably never heard of Faraday, but you've heard of some people that came from there. Mickey Gilley, you ever heard of Mickey Gilley? Country musician. And if you remember Urban Cowboy with John Travolta, some of you city slickers from New York probably started wearing cowboy boots back in those days. Mickey Gilley's nightclub in Dallas was the focal point of that movie. And then Jimmy Swaggart, the evangelical minister, was from there also. He was a cousin of Mickey Gilley, and he's most famous for saying, "My Lord, I have sinned against you." You might remember that when he got caught with a prostitute in California. Yeah, okay, now we're coming around. And also Howard K. Smith, the newsman, was from there. He went to Tulane University, then went on to fame and acclaim, but most famous of all was Jerry Lee Lewis. He was also from there. Mickey and Jerry and Jimmy were cousins. After going to college and getting out in the working world, I worked in New Orleans for several years with Travelers Insurance Company. Decided I didn't want to do that the rest of my life, and decided to go to law school. So I went to Loyola Law School in New Orleans, and did not want to stay in New Orleans the rest of our lives. I had married my wife, and she and I will be celebrating our 57th wedding anniversary this summer. And 54 of them have been pretty happy. No, I'm kidding. They've all been happy. We have 2 children. A younger son lives here on Daniel Island. That's why we're here. We started after we retired in 2016. We decided to follow grandchildren. At the time, they were living in Ponte Vedra, Florida, so we moved to Ponte Vedra. We're there for 4 years, and during that time, I did one thing that I really enjoyed, and that was a volunteer at TPC Sawgrass, where the annual Players Tournament is held. If you ever get a chance to go to Ponte Vedra, Jacksonville, go out to TPC Sawgrass and take the tour of the inside of the huge, enormous home of the PGA. And you'll also get a chance to go out and see 15, 16, and 17, 16, 17, and 18 on a golf cart. It's really a great experience. That was a volunteer. There were 54 of us that did that. And so then we moved up here after our son transferred to a hospital up here. He's in hospital administration. And I met Bill Green, of all people. And Bill said, "You know anybody here?" I said, "Don't know a soul." He said, "Well, you ought to join Rotary." I had never been in Rotary before. I'd been in another club for many, many years in Louisiana, but not Rotary. So that was my first experience with Rotary, and it's been a great experience. If anybody here is looking for a new home, Rotary home, you don't need to look any further. You found the best. So, but go out and look so you know it's the best. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. I think we'll all agree that you guys just stop your search now. You found it. Okay, with that, let's move right into our speaker. And with that, do you want to introduce him, Steve?
I think Bob has actually sort of introduced Chris, so I'm not sure there's a whole lot I can add here. But as he mentioned, Chris has been a longtime member of our club. Most of us who've been around for a while remember those days when Chris was here. In the last couple of years, he's been living in Ukraine and helping with the war effort there, and that's what he's going to talk about this morning. I've had a sneak peek of the slides. So he's been doing a lot of things, and you'll hear about that. And Anna Spahn was here a couple of years ago and talked to us about this effort that she was developing in Charleston to support Ukraine. So it is, CHS for Ukraine. And a lot of us got involved with that. But Anna is here this morning, so you might want to say hello to her when you get a chance. Chris has been here since early December, and he's going to be going back shortly. So we've tried really hard to find a date that would work into his schedule so that he could talk to us. And just judging from the crowd here, we're all pretty anxious to hear what Chris has to say. And I think, frankly, for all of us, I mean, you'll hear what Chris is doing, but he said it's kind of fair game to ask questions of him about anything that you want to know about what's going on in Ukraine, whether it's the war effort, how the war going, the morale of the people, what they need, how can we help, blah, 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 whatever it might be. So be thinking about the questions for Chris. So rather than have me stand up here, let me turn it over to Chris. Let's give a very warm Rotary welcome to Chris Watson.
We'll see how it goes. So yeah, please, as we go through, there'll be logical moments, I think, for questions. So please feel free to ask those questions. There's a lot of questions about Ukraine. And there are no rude questions, particularly about Ukraine at this moment, because I tell you, I live there and I ask those questions myself. So I'm happy to chat with just about anything. This is my partner, Elena Solis. We work together on a whole variety of humanitarian and drones and everything else. Anna Spahn, and with no further ado, I'll get into it. This actually is kind of interesting because I put this on social media in Ukraine. You black out the people's faces because you don't necessarily want to disclose who's helping on various initiatives. So that's why they have the orange makeup on. Anyways, activities. Since the start of the war, I've become a LVIV International Rotary member. I'm a visiting professor at LVIV Polytechnic University. I'm involved in entrepreneurships, mentorship, quite a bit of different things. With Anna, I co-founded CHS for Ukraine very, very early. I mean, literally the March, I was in Poland. The mayor's office, Charleston mayor's office, put us together. I was on a phone call in the street next to the U.S. Embassy, and we said, hey, let's do this thing. And Eurofoods over in Mount Pleasant had been doing, or West Ashley had been doing something to help Ukraine. And so we just all sort of merged efforts. And it was quite something. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. I'm a technologist, and an entrepreneur. So one of the things I did was build a drone factory. And I'll talk more about that and the effect it has on the war. I also believe that part of Ukraine's problems can really only be solved in the future. And so I'm a big believer in education, thus LVIV Polytechnic University, and underwriting children's books to teach Ukrainian culture, language, that sort of thing. I've also put together educational exchanges between US and Ukrainian universities for both programs between American universities and Ukrainian universities, as well as we're sponsoring 30 students, Ukrainians, to come over during summer for basically a civics, seminars, and entrepreneurship program. And of course, the college kids get to wander around LA, and we're hoping actually to bring them to Washington, DC, if we can put that as a side trip. So we're very excited about that. We hope that that'll become a reoccurring thing. If all goes well, by the end of this year, well, I should talk more in there, but by the end of this year, we hope to have an agreement between all California state level universities and all Ukrainian national universities. And we seem to be well on the way for that, which would be great. I think it's very, very important that Ukraine be brought towards the West, rather than abandoned and fall back towards the East. And that's one of the reasons I'm there. So specifically, why am I there? Well, as it turns out, I studied Russian, just happenstance, for 5 years prior to the war. So I spoke some Russian. It's not the most popular language in Ukraine right now, but I can be understood. So that was something. I have 20 some odd years experience working at a high level with FEMA as a contractor. We provide disaster services, back office stuff, but claims. But I understand logistics. I understand surging people. I understand how to work in difficult circumstances under a lot of pressure. And it turns out war is very much like that. And war is, of course, logistics in large part. Then we have Ukraine, and we have the value. Why Ukraine? Well, you know, look, we've got NATO here. We've got NATO here, NATO, not NATO, and NATO. No, that's Russia. Where's Turkey? I'm really bad at geography. Okay, down, Turkey, here, NATO. So the basic idea, and they've already talked about it, Russia's already talked about it. If Ukraine falls, they're gonna be pushing up on Poland next. And whether or not we want to, or it's uncomfortable for us, we have to defend Poland. So what we don't want to end up is with World War II situation where we let Hitler go and grab more and more until the whole world is embroiled. So one of the reasons I'm there is because I have children, and I think I can do something because of my skills, and they're in college, and so I have the ability to take some risks I couldn't have taken. And I see this as an existential threat to Western civilization, and so thus I go. And it's assisted by the fact that Yana here, I'd met her and her baby in Kyiv about 3 months before the war started. And the war started within a couple of days. I received this picture of her and the child, beautiful kid, hiding in a basement somewhere near Kyiv. And I could do something about that. And so I just couldn't not do anything. So I loaded up a bunch of drones, a bunch of medical kits, and arrived in Poland second week maybe of March. And then met with this woman here, Masha, who's married to Slavic. And she is one of the many volunteers I met. They didn't even know each other. I arrived on the plane. I had 15 or more suitcases filled with drones and medical kits and everything else. And this grassroots organization just came, met me there. We got everything organized, got it sent out to the various groups. At this point, it was all grassroots. You know, she loaded her car up with everything she could and then drove off to the front lines to meet with her husband. I mean, there was no logistics chain. The US wasn't there. Nobody was there. For the first 3 months, it was all grassroots. Organizations like Anna, organizations like me, and then just so many brave Ukrainians. And so she got, among the things she got to Slavic was a drone. And that drone saved his life 2 days later. So I delivered the drone in Poland. 3 days later, it was in the field. They were surrounded by Russian tanks and infantry, and they were gonna die. And they raised the drone up over everything. They were able to see where the Russians were and the Russians weren't, and they escaped. And I got hooked, frankly, because these are people I know, and their lives have been saved as a result of things that Anna and I have done. It's very, very hard to give up. Now, it doesn't mean that over the year I haven't started doing more things, different things. We'll get into it a bit. So, as you know, I'm a very proud member of LVIV International Rotary Club. They do all the normal things we do. Okay, they give out gifts to children who, you know, low-income children. They run parties and things. They do a lot of educational things. Here we are. Where's the current president? I don't see her. Okay, anyway, this is an old slide. There's the current president at the time, and there I am hiding in the back. So it's a typical Rotary Club, just as you would expect. I mean, we plant trees. So there's parks and things like that. We go out, we plant trees and do all that kind of stuff. We really try and improve our local area. I mean, we're big into that, but there is a war on. So working with Rotary International, we have coordinated massive amounts of aid coming into Ukraine of various sorts, lots of medical aid, some medical aid here. I don't know what this is. Knowing it's coming from Texas, we work with a medical agency in Texas, so I have to assume that that's a whole bunch of medical aid that's coming in because we really focus very heavily on medical. One of our grassroots initiatives that we've done is we build portable hospitals. This is actually a portable hospital. It is a trailer. It turns out that if you want to build a portable hospital and you're in a war zone, you build a trailer because that way, if the truck engine dies, you can find a new truck and drag it around with the trailer. So it's much more flexible. Yes, question? Sorry about that. Okay. So, so it turns out that if you want to build a portable hospital, you put it in a trailer, because putting it in the trailer allows you to replace the truck engine if the truck dies. And so these can see 3 patients. Oops, go back. These can see 3 patients at a time. Can treat a variety of ailments, and so much medical infrastructure has been destroyed that they're really critical. The ones that go to the front line, it's funny. The first, well, no, it's a situation. It is. So we figured out all the equipment we thought they would need. We bring it to the front lines. It turns out that they need dental work, because you're on the front line and you can't brush your teeth very often. And so you're a soldier, you're in a trench, and you get toothaches. And so the next versions of these that we did, we put dental chairs in there so we can do the dental work for them. We've produced over 50 of these at this point. The red thing there is one of the fire vehicles that we bring, emergency vehicles that we bring in.
How cute. Potato, I've ever known. Potato, I've ever known.
Okay. So we bring in a lot of medical vehicles from Germany, from actually Scotland. The Scottish vehicles are probably the most amusing ones, because they're brought over by a bunch of Scottish farmers who also bring over or smuggle over cases of Scottish whiskey when they arrive. So, so the meet and greet for the Scottish groups are always exciting. But we've probably been involved in over 100 vehicles that have gotten into Ukraine for various things. This right here, kind of an interesting thing we did. So we give out a lot of these medical kits. Anna gives out a lot of these medical kits. But people don't know how to use them. I didn't know how to use them. So we got a combat medic. He's actually an American, and he's with Rotary and Rotary International. And we put a video together that describes how to use all the pieces of a military IFAC medical kit. And then it's in English, because we speak English, but then we had it translated to Ukrainian. And then we posted it up on the web and people look at it. Okay, so it's just these little things that we try. Additional things Rotary International does for aid. This is actually another on the left. This is one of our clinics being used. So it has really a lot of capability in there. These are the IFAC kits that we give out. I was actually going to bring one with me, but I realized they're all in Ukraine. So, which is, I guess, the right place for them to be. Drones. So we've given out quite a few thermal drones. This right here, you can tell, you guys can't tell, but this is a thermal drone because it's got the 2 cameras right there. And we give these out to first responders. So the state emergency security services, sort of like FEMA for us. And they use this to search for victims in the rubble, because you can look for the heat signatures. So it's different. So CHS for Ukraine, Anna, and just as a by the way, we would love if you guys saw fit to donate either to the Rotary LVIV International, because they're still building those hospitals, or remote hospitals, and they're doing it with Rotary International. And so there's matching grants and things like that available. And Anna can always need money for IFACs, the medical kits. I'm off-roading, and we shouldn't give me money because of the things I'm involved in that I don't need money for, and it's not humanitarian, so much. And we'll get into that. So what we did for the first 2 years, every week to 2 weeks, we would load 15 to 20 bags up, and we would send them with a courier on to Poland. And then we would pick them up in Poland. Here we are. Here I am picking them up in Poland, actually. And then we work with our volunteers, and we distribute it across Ukraine. And just the grassroots logistics network and setting those up has been amazingly uplifting. It's just so hard to describe. I mean, I met with these guys early in the war who clearly had been mafia people, okay, at the beginning, before the war. And they had a car filled with stuff. They were a little rough around the edges, but they really did not want Russia to win. And so they turned all of their group's resources, hey, these guys are organized, into delivering logistics for Ukraine. You know, okay, fine. And so we met these guys. It was very, very sketchy, but they were within the bounds. It was upright. So we met them about 2 a.m. one night, you know, in a back alley. And we had 3 shipments of things that needed to go to various places on the front lines. And so we put the region and the phone number on the bag on a tag. And then we shoved it somehow into this car that, thank God they weren't driving in the US, because they would have been pulled over within nanoseconds, because there was, I don't even know how the driver drove, and they drove off. And within 2 days, the entire car was emptied. All of our stuff was delivered correctly and through a war zone. Amazing, amazing cooperation and coordination. This is an example of some of the things that CHS for Ukraine has given. You can see they have a little thank you letter. And this is kind of an interesting thing. We'll talk about this a little more. This is one of the ways to fight against corruption, is you get these little thank you letters. I have thank you videos. I have my video I'll show you later on. I get these thank you videos, and it says, you know, thank you, Chris, Putin, hello, which is our code word about Putin. And I won't translate here. And then here's CHS for Ukraine giving pet food for pets that had been abandoned for various reasons by their owners who were having to flee because of refugees or they're dead. So they help with shelters there to take care of those pets. Again, one of the things I believe is extremely important, oh, we're doing good on time, is entrepreneurship, building towards the future. Ukraine has, you know, living there, Ukraine has a frustrating, yes, sorry. I'm sorry, okay. So Ukraine has a frustrating amount, from my perspective, living there, of Soviet bureaucracy. And they have a frustrating amount of Soviet mindset on things. They are very, very engaged and interested in moving towards the West, but unattended, with if the EU walks away from them, Russia retains preeminence, they'll fall back into it to our great detriment. And we don't want that. So, and there are issues, sure, with corruption now, but one of the ways we can fight it for the future and invest in the future is with entrepreneurship programs like this, exchange programs, bringing over Ukrainian students, getting people to see that there's different ways of doing things. And they're very excited about that. They like money. We like money. They like money, right? And so we just have to convince them that not all the money has to be corruptly obtained, which it's actually starting to work. Just even in the last year, we've had issues where a year ago, if I needed something done with the bureaucracy, I could just go up, pay $50, and the bureaucracy would go away and I get my thing. I mean, I wasn't trying to get massive advantage, but I didn't want to sit in lines for a day and a half. Well, recently, Zelensky, last 6 months or so, Zelensky has started very seriously putting people in jail. Okay. As a result, now nobody wants to go and be corrupt. Everybody's following the rules. So when I had to redo my registration for my residency, it took me over 2 weeks, and we had to go to 6, or was it 7 offices? We had to follow all the correct regulations. I was so frustrated. I was talking to Elena at one point. It's like, who can I bribe? You know, delighted. You know, on one side, I was delighted that I couldn't find anyone to bribe. On the other side, it was extremely personally inconvenient to me that I could not bribe someone at the time. So sometimes you get what you ask for. So we're working with San Bernardino, Ivan Franko University, and LVIV Polytech. Ivan Franko is kind of a very interesting, LVIV Polytechnic is the largest polytechnic university in Eastern Europe. It's quite large. Ivan Franko is interesting. It's large as well, but its claim to fame, and Natalia may be listening to this, but it's just going to kill me. I think 300 or 400 years old. It's gone through the Austrian Empire. It dealt with the Turkish Empire. It dealt with all kinds of different empires, but it's still there. So it's kind of interesting. Poland, of course. Educational partnerships. This is, on the left, is the rector of California State University, San Bernardino in Poland. We brought them to the university senior staff to Krakow, Poland, where they signed memorandums of understanding for educational cooperation with LVIV Polytechnic and Krakow Economic University. And as I said, we're hoping to expand that to be California-wide and nationwide for Ukraine. So here we're meeting with the deputy mayor in Lviv, working on some educational initiatives there. So it's just kind of how do we get education, really Western education. You know, how do we do the requirements to shift the mindset where we get people starting to think all business transactions do not have to be a zero-sum game. Perhaps we could actually both win, okay? And teaching that, people are starting to see that, but it's hard, okay? Early education, please don't look at my bald spot. We have a couple books. Actually, Lena, would you mind passing out the books? So we have some of the books that I've sponsored. There's a coloring book in the bag and the grandfather alphabet book that we see here on the left. And so we just did runs of hundreds of them and we hand them out to children, you know, usually disadvantaged children, obviously small children. This right here, these kids are at an orphanage. Their parents have been dispossessed or more likely died. So, you know, we just do what we can for them. They really like the coloring books, which is why I only have one coloring book and I have more alphabet books because all the coloring books go away. But that's just so heartwarming to be able to help the children. And it's just, you know, I could fill this presentation with pictures of just the kids. And it's the future. It's really the future. And we have an opportunity here to help shape the future, you know, in a way that's very positive for them and for us. Now we get to, from my perspective, where I spend a lot, well, I spend a lot of my time on entrepreneurship, but also where I spend a lot of my other time, which is drones. So we created a drone factory. We called it Alpha Strike. I don't know if anybody recognizes part of this logo, but we wanted to let them know that they were not alone. So we use that logo. This is one of the offices where we produce the drones in Ukraine. We've got 3 or so others right now that also produce drones. We produce various kinds of drones. These are drones that are ready for testing right here. These are wing drones. They have a range of somewhere around 60 to 90 miles, depending on what the drone is. We put various cameras in them, like GoPros, and they go find the bad guys. And quite seriously, these drones are frequently used for HIMARS. We go and we find the targets for the HIMARS, we come back and tell about it, and then they send out a HIMARS mission. So go figure. We had an interesting case because the US doesn't always include all the stuff that's needed. Here, have some HIMARS. Oh, we don't know how you're going to find the bad guys, but have some HIMARS. They donated a bunch of helicopters that were originally going to go to Afghanistan, and they said, okay, well, now they're going to come to Ukraine. They donated a bunch of these helicopters to Ukraine, but didn't include the headsets so the helicopter could be flown with the aircrew so they could talk. And so one of the things I did is say, well, let me see, $10 million helicopter. And if I pay $3,000, I can activate a $10 million helicopter. So I'm thinking that's a really good return on investment. So I activated a couple $10 million helicopters and got a really nice thank you letter back from the helicopter brigade. So go figure. But yeah, this is question? Sure. HIMARS, oh, good. HIMARS are the really exciting missiles, the longer range missiles the US has been giving out. They are the attack version of a Patriot missile battery, as in highest tech strike missiles that they're out there pretty much, a range up to 200 miles or so. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. Yes. And we haven't given them, to my knowledge, the very longest range, but I hope that we will. But there are reasons we haven't, and I understand those reasons, even though I wish we would. But anyway, so we use these to find targets for artilleries, including HIMARS. As a matter of fact, I was smuggling these frames across the border in Ukraine because they couldn't figure out what the paperwork was for bringing drones over for the first part of the year. So basically everybody just smuggled everything across. And since I was an American, I smuggled the best. So I was doing a lot of the smuggling runs. And I actually had to I achieved a life goal, as a matter of fact, because I filled up my passport. I've always wanted to fill my passport. And so I filled my passport up with its border stamps, and I had to get a new one. And now I have one of the ones like a business passport that has double the number of pages. I was so proud. But yeah, so I'd get stopped at the border, and the border guards would open it up, and they'd see drone parts and stuff. I wasn't bringing weapons over, but I was bringing things that could be useful, right? And he looked at me and says, "Well, what's this?" And I said, "Well, scout drones." And I said, "We have friends with HIMARS." And he's like, "I understand." Closed the bag, and off I went. So it's been an experience. Okay, here's what I would like to play. Can I play? Can we play this? Yeah. So this is one of our FPV drones. This is actually, actually, pause for just a second. Pause for just a second. Okay. Lena, could you pass out these drones? Yeah. No. Only if you have a HIMARS. Only if you have a HIMARS. So these are tank killer drones. This drone right here. Sorry, these are tank killer drones. And as you can't tell, this is actually a Russian drone. This is a captured Russian drone given to us by the Ukrainian army, and for us to break down and figure out what the differences are, better and worse, of the Russian drone versus the Ukrainians. This drone was miswired and flew backwards, which was probably one of the reasons we captured it. Go figure. And however, it has a better camera than what we had. And as an example of the extremely weird world that we live in, we found out where the camera's sourced, and then we went to the Chinese manufacturer and we bought a bunch. So go figure. It's a strange world. So yeah, you're not going to break them. And this is an Omega Strike drone. This is the new version from Alpha Strike of our drone. You can see it even says Omega Strike there. Both can carry about 3 pounds. I have to translate from kilos. About 3 pounds of weight, and they can go somewhere around 7 miles. Typically, operationally, they're used in about a 1.5 mile range. And we have longer range that'll go further and can carry more. You'll actually see that in this video. But yes, question?
Sensitive is this technology that's floating around the room right now?
This is unfortunately something you can find anywhere on the internet right now. And that's actually something we all need to think about. We need allies for the future. And Ukraine right now is the best trained drone pilots and drone warfare specialists in the world. And if we do go up against China, we desperately need Ukraine and their knowledge. Because these are $700 drones, and I can go online and build them from parts that I buy in the US now. Here is a 3D printed bomb dropper mechanism that will drop these bombs. Those can be kamikaze drones. You just tie a bomb to them and run it into something, you've got a kamikaze. But if you want to get your drone back, because you don't want to spend $700, you put one of these on it. See, it becomes a weapon when I attach it. But without this, it's not a weapon. And this right here will drop bombs. So yeah, this technology really can't be controlled. And so we need to understand how we defend against it and how we use it. I have a number of people in Ukraine who are in the Ukrainian version of the Top Gun drone school. And I very much hope to get them to the United States and teaching the US military when the war is over, because we desperately need their knowledge. Desperately need their knowledge. So this gentleman here is, he trained for 3 weeks. Slavic, the guy whose life was saved, trained him. Slavic is now at that Top Gun school. And in 3 weeks, he learned to fly a drone like this, like what you'll see here. So please go ahead. That would be a bomb. Another bomb. Bomb. So our world has changed. Okay. That's That's what our enemy will be using in the future. Our world has changed whether we want it or not. Okay, next. See if I can, oh, there we go. So this here is some of the different kinds of drones that Alpha Strike does. Here is a larger version of one of our Scout drones, and you can see here the little Alpha Strike logo. And then this is one of the land drones. This can be used to bring ammunition, medical supplies. One of the things we commonly do with it actually is put cameras on it for scouting. So it can kind of sneak ahead and see what's up there. This is a heavier lift drone. This was actually, I took this when we were out near the front lines near Bakhmut. And we gave a bunch of drones. We have another picture about that. And that can carry probably, I have to convert from kilos, 10-kilo drone, I think. I think that one carries 10 kilos. That's like a 20 kilo. Yeah, so 40, yeah, so it'd be 22 pounds and a range of about 15 miles plus or minus. Okay. And that drone has some very nice cameras on it for spotting. But even with the nice cameras, that is about a $8,000 drone, just to give you an idea. And I can make it a fully autonomous drone that will fly without radio and will go to the target, hit the target, come home if you want it to, for about $10,000. This is the world we're in. Yeah. Massive problem. The early on in the war, we were giving a lot of hobbyist drones, the commercial drones and things, and now most of our research and development effort is designed towards how do we fly when you can't control the drone. It is the Russians are the best in the world at defense. They always thought that they would be defending against a NATO attack for whatever reason. It's not like NATO wants to attack them, but they are very, very good at defense in depth, none better. And so their electronic warfare is the very, very best in the world, none better. So basically we are having to use, what can I say? We're having to use methods that don't require radio in order to be able to find where they need to go and complete the mission. And that can be simple things like sending a scout drone out without a radio and it just flies autonomously. We can't use GPS because GPS is also denied. So you have to use the old school kind of like World War II inertial, things, and you fly out. And it's all, again, none of this is magic. This is all World War II stuff. So, but that's been what it's been reverted to. Oh, this is a larger land drone. You can see the mount for the machine gun right there. And if you could play that, please. This is Lena testing the land drone. Keep your arms and hands inside the ride at all times. And it can go quite a bit faster than that over various terrain and stuff, but I kind of like that little clip. So there's all kinds of new innovative ideas that are coming out of Ukraine right now. And these are things that we really need to be paying attention to. And to a significant extent, the US is paying attention. But a lot of the people who know most about this are currently fighting in Ukraine. So there you go. I mean, I do, a team that I work with that's not my team does meet with high US officers in other countries that aren't Ukraine and gets advice from them now and then. I do know that. How do I, oh, there we go. Go back. Okay. So this is Lena, and these guys right here on the bottom are with part of the team of Alpha Strike. This is our senior engineer. This is my assistant, Lena, me. And this is the 24th Brigade. We're basically near Bakhmut at this point, and we've just given them around $60,000 worth of drones of various sorts. Basically, tank killers. We gave them everything except land drones. So everything that you've seen already, we gave them. And again, this money is not from Rotary money. We clearly separate that. I'm not asking for any donations. I will not accept any donations. Send them to Rotary LVIV or Onispon, and they will use them appropriately, and they're very much needed. But this is just not appropriate. Can we move the little talking thing there where the talking, because that's kind of an amusing little picture. Thank you. Yeah, just slide that over. Thanks. So this is me in a bomb shelter. Okay, so normally when we think bomb shelter, we think, okay, that's a place where you go to shelter from the bombs. Not so. this is a place, how do we do that? This is a place where we shelter the bombs from us. So I am holding a very powerful bomb there. It would not be a thermobaric bomb because that would be illegal. I am holding a bomb there that is a big bomb. And there were a lot of other bombs there, and they were putting them together in various combinations. It was really interesting and a little freaky. I was very glad to be out of that building when we were done. But you get a lot of very interesting experiences when you get close to the front line. First time we were near the front line, I got called into a room and they couldn't figure out if it was an American spy because it's early in the war. What's this guy doing here? Then they realized I spoke some Russian, and so it got really weird because they figured that I must be an American spy. And they started showing me all this intelligence data that they were getting twice a day from the US government, which I was very impressed with. Satellite feeds. They have this battle space integration tool that now is open knowledge, so I can talk about it. But it was very, very cool. But when I walked into this room, it was like out of something you see like in a Middle Eastern terrorist kind of a thing, because you walk in, it's concrete room. There's, light bulbs hanging from wires, and you've got all this stuff running around, and the rats and the things, and some guys in uniform and some guys not in uniform, and very strange. And I figured if I didn't answer the questions correctly, I was not coming out of this. So I was very careful to answer the questions correctly. Yeah, it was interesting. And take out this room. Oh, a tank. You only need a bomb like that. For tank, yeah, it's interesting. The tank, you can kill a tank. There's more effective bombs for killing a tank, but you can kill a tank with about a pound bomb. What they do is you drop them on the top of the tank and it burns through the armor and catches the tank on fire and the tank explodes. Who knew? I certainly did not know. And yeah, we live in a brave new scary world, whether we are willing to acknowledge that fact or not. Because, one terrorist can cross the border in any direction, probably in a plane flight, and do a lot of bad things. So we need friends. We very much need friends. And that picture is kind of interesting right there in a way. That's me. I was looking at the drones, and then all of a sudden, some Ukrainian MiG aircraft flew by me on a mission across the lines and said, "Oh, that's cool." And so I was watching them as they flew by, because that's not something you see every day, as a Ukrainian MiGs on a mission across the lines a few miles away. But I made sure that when I saw them that they were flying the correct direction, because if they're flying the other direction, they would be Russian MiGs on a mission. So these little nuances are important. So life in Ukraine is fabulous. Life in Ukraine, it's a gorgeous country. This is me drinking vishnia, which is a really wonderful cherry liqueur that they do it in the summer, cold, and in the winter they warm it. I love it in the winter because it's great stuff. And particularly it's perfect. And so, but it's a very normal kind of thing. This is their, the Pravda Beer Theater. And if we can make that, that's a video, if we can make that one go. Just gives you an idea. This was just a video I took once. This is the main square in Lviv, and doesn't really do it justice. But it's just normal. People living their lives, trying to get along. And there's all kinds of great restaurants, great food, great people, cultural activities. It's really impressive. It's a great town. Highly recommended. After the war, go visit. Lviv's a great town. And of course, it's very inexpensive, and they love Americans. They were ambivalent. I met quite a few people who were very ambivalent about America. Remember Russian influence prior to the war, but now they love us. They may not always love Congress, but they love us and they appreciate the support. I met with a high Ukrainian general in Kyiv 6 months ago talking about a project, and he was interesting. He led the team that used the first operational javelins ever in combat. So America had never used the Javelin missiles in combat, and his team actually used the Javelins first. And so he's kind of a cool guy to talk to. But he was very appreciative of America. At the end of our conversation, he went and stood up, shook my hand, and said, "Thank you very much, and thank you, America." So it's very strong. The gratitude is very, very strong there.
Is there a big difference between?
It's, yeah, an excellent question. Yeah, this actually here is a picture of Kyiv, but that's a picture that doesn't show you anything of Kyiv except parts of it are gorgeous. Kyiv, if you've been to Kyiv before, it's a little sad because so many people have fled. So more stores are closed down, but arguably Kyiv is possibly safer because the missile defense is so much better. Lviv has had over 100 people die in the last year and a half, which for a 1 million people city, that's not a lot. More people have died in traffic accidents here in the last year and a half. But, you know, it's still a thing. Kyiv is probably in the hundreds, but it's a bigger city. So yeah, but Kyiv is nice. It's, as I said, if you've been there before, it's a little depressing because things are closed. But other than that, it's active. It's not as active. Lviv has always been. I'm sorry. How are you doing on time?
Not well.
Okay, I'll go.
No. Look, I think just looking at everybody, I think you're very interested in this. Make an offer. Anybody who needs to leave, it is 8:30. Don't feel bad, but let's continue for another 5-10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, sorry about that, guys. I was trying that. Okay. So, microphone. Okay, so here we go. So now this thing on the left, everybody has this on their phone. I have it on my phone right now. You can see that Lviv has had 3 air raids just in the time since I went to sleep, and I can see them on my phone. I can see where they were, and I can take action if necessary. So this is just common. It's like you carry your car keys, you have the alert. This right here, can we get this to play, please? The one in the middle. This is an air raid sirens. And air raids are part of life. These guys are, this is in the Lviv center, and these guys are going on with their life because we get air raids 3 to 5 times a day. You can't stop your life, you know. So when we were near the front line, we were using Uber and we used Airbnb, and we were 6 miles away from the front line. It's crazy. Life goes on. And yet, you know, you have devastation, death. This is my friend's house, well, their former house, and it affects people, and it's real. This right here was a video put together by my friend Slavic. So if we could actually start this video. It shows some of the things we do and the groups we've helped, as well as the code phrase. The video stopped. We may need to restart it. It's, yeah, I'm not sure what happened. It stopped there. Yeah, if you reset it. Yeah, we'll just pull forward. This is click. Yeah, just start there, I guess. Yeah, start with that. All right, that's the Daniel video. Shaky.
We ask a question while you're
Yeah, absolutely.
Chris, thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. I've got a question. At the beginning of this conflict, we were knocking out a lot of generals, Russian generals. Can you explain
why?
How?
Well, Ukrainian intelligence is quite good. And U.S. intelligence, which was helping them, is also quite good. The Russian command structure is extraordinarily inflexible, rigid, and hierarchical. So they don't have a strong NCO corps like we do in the United States. As a matter of fact, one of the things we're teaching the Ukrainians to do. And so as a result, when things go slightly bad, they have to put very senior officers up front to sort problems out. And so a number of the generals that the Ukrainians have killed were literally out towards the front directing traffic. Go figure. So that's why. No, well,
The question for our Zoom people were, how did you locate the generals, right?
yeah. So, usually communications intercepts, cell phone, just looking to see via satellite, what car is going where, that sort of thing. The U.S. provides a lot of intelligence to Ukraine multiple times a day. So that's very, very helpful for Ukraine prosecuting the war. How are we doing? Okay, cool. So if we can start, I guess, about where the guy's picking up the gun. There you go, right there. Oh, here we go. There you go. That's good. So these aren't random people. These are all groups that we've helped. There's the code word.
Thank you very much. Slava Ukraini.
There we are.
Got it. It seems that from a news standpoint, the war, the Israeli war has taken a lot of publicity away from Ukraine. And do you agree with that? And is it affecting it much? And my second question is, we keep hearing about some rebellion among the Russian soldiers. Is that encouraging, or do you think that there's anything on the forefront with regard to maybe a weakening of the Russian army with regard to that?
Well, Russia has a practice of shooting people in the back when they try and run away. So they have ways of discouraging that. It does happen, and I think the morale's fairly poor, but unfortunately, because of the really authoritarian ways which they manage that, I think it's less beneficial. In some cases, it can be, but it's less beneficial than we might hope for. So yeah. And the Israeli conflict, if you look at where Hamas got a lot of those weapons, they came from Russia or Iran. Okay. Russia clearly knows that this is to their benefit. Okay. And this actually very nicely ties in to why. Why am I there? Russia is, well, the US is in a proxy war with China in the 21st century. We can step away from these conflicts. We can step away from our historic and our new allies, and we'll be okay for 10 or 15 years. But in the meantime, the Chinese economy will become preeminent. The US economy will decline. We'll be kind of like, the UK after Brexit, where it's like, oh, it sounds great. Yeah, we get to keep all these people out. We don't have to worry about all those messy foreigners. And then yet there you are, okay, without all those messy foreigners and the economy and everything else. So if Russia wins, Europe and US interests are strongly threatened unless we truly do walk away from NATO, which would be a horrible, horrible idea. Russia's already looking towards NATO countries. We want the war to not be fought on our front lawn, frankly, with due respect to my Ukrainian friends. We want to fight and win this war in Ukraine, not in Western Europe, and God forbid, not with North Korea lobbying things over at the US. Okay, we've got to put it out. And the world is too dangerous to be without strong allies. If we have strong allies, we must be a strong ally. We must be reliable. We must say that we will do this thing, and then we do the thing. And people trust that. And they trust that for 10, 20, 30 years. Okay, that's really it. Any more questions?
Chris will be around after if you want to have a side discussion or conversation.
Yeah, and these patches, I've got a number of Alpha Strike patches here. If anyone would like one, they're extra, just take them. Oh, and real quick, we have the flag, and I have a flag here, actually, a thank you flag from a group in Ukraine for Daniel Island Rotary. So this is a common thing they do for their donors, and they just write thank yous and messages and things like that. So thank you very much. Yeah, for you then. And
We also want to just exchange the flags for the two clubs. So.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
I've been in Rotary for almost 30 years. This is by far the best presentation I've ever been.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So again, thank you, and thank you for everyone involved in putting this together. We're going to take a quick picture, of course. But again, if you have questions, Chris will be here for a while, along with Anna. And we do have one more quick thing. And guess who's going to do the four-way test?
Okay, ready? So our four-way test is, of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Exactly. Thank you very much, everyone.